Welcome to 3 Steps to Practice Purchase Success. I'm so excited for this show with our experts from DDSmatch, an amazing Nacho key resource and sponsor. Before we welcome them, I want to share with you that you can text by to 215-543-6454, and we will help you buy the dental practice of your dreams, not screams. You want to avoid mistakes in making the biggest decision of your dental career. So how did Dr. Nacho, that's me, make a $50,000 mistake when buying a dental practice? So I want to share with you, there are 4 big decisions you will make in your dental career. Let's review them and learn how I made this huge mistake.
Imagine making a $30,000 mistake when buying a dental practice. Imagine not knowing what questions to ask or how to build a team when making the most important decision of your dental life. My name is Dr. Paul Goodman, Dr. Nacho, and I don't have to imagine that because I made those mistakes in 2011. I didn't know what questions to ask when buying a dental practice. I didn't know working with a dual representation broker is Nacho nuts. A dual representation broker claims to be able to represent your interest and the interest of the selling dentist at the same time. So if you only listen to this much, just know that working with a dual representation broker can burn your nachos in making the most important decision of your dental life. My goal as Dr. Paul Goodman, Dr. Nacho, is to help you with the 4 most important decisions you will make in your entire dentisting career, or what I call the circle of dentisting life. Finding your first job, buying your first practice, hiring your first associate, and selling your only practice. Dental school teaches us a lot about the Krebs cycle and how to make a mediocre bite rim, but not enough about our dentisting core. What is our dentisting core? The decisions we make with our mind, the words we say, which are ultra important, our clinical skills, and at the center of it all, our heart, who we look to help, and the impact we look to make. Making mistakes in the 4 biggest decisions of your dentisting career can cause so many problems. And I want to give you actionable takeaways in each one of those steps. So let's talk about finding your first job. What is some common mistake dentists make is starting too late. Finding your first job should start day 1 of D1, not applying for that job, finding it. ABC, always be connecting. Meeting people in industry who can help. Who are these people if you're a dental student? Who should you reach out to? Go to in-person CE events. Sit next to dentists that look older than you and meet them. They may not be looking for an associate, but they may have a friend who's also looking. When you go to sign an associate contract, do not sign one without having a dental-focused attorney review it. As Dr. Nacho, founder of a 30,000 member plus Facebook group, I get poignant messages daily from dental associates who did not have anyone review their contract and now they have a problem. Problem getting paid, problem with their restrictive covenant. So get a dental-focused attorney to review your contract. Nothing bad happens. Either the dental-focused attorney says, hey, this contract looks pretty good, let's ask for a few things here, but if we don't get these things, it's still a good contract. Or they say, there's 14 red flags and I haven't gotten to page 2 of that contract. So that's finding your first job. Buying your first practice. The mistake I made was with us buying a second practice, but we overpaid by at least $30,000, and here's why. Cash flow is so important. So this $300,000 practice was only profiting $100,000. So another actionable takeaway. A good way to value a practice is 2 times the net profit, 1.5 to 2 times the net profit, not just 70% of collections. So this broker valued it at $215,000 and we just paid it. There were no Facebook groups, there were no podcasts, we didn't have information on this. We just paid the asking price. And I know that we could have paid at least $30,000 less because it was a practice that was in distress. So if you're buying a practice that's in distress, the owner is sick, they have to sell quickly. That is an unfortunate life circumstance for the selling dentist. But you as the buyer, that practice doesn't have the same value as one where the owner might be able to stay on afterwards. So buying your first dental practice is so important. As someone who helps dentists sell their dental practices, I meet dentists at the end of their career, and they have often had multiple houses, sometimes multiple spouses, but just one dental practice. So what does that mean? That one dental practice will stick with you through your career. The third thing, hiring your first associate. When to know, do you need an associate? Let me tell you the story of my best friend, Todd. Todd didn't know if he needed an associate, but he knew he was very stressed. He was super successful, amazing fee-for-service practice in Center City, Philadelphia, a fantastic dentist and an even better person. But he didn't know how to find an associate and how to incorporate that associate into his practice. I just met with him recently. He hired this associate 2 years ago, said it was the best decision of his dental career. So what are the 5 questions you need to ask and be able to answer when hiring an associate? Why am I looking for an associate? Where is the position? How will the associate be compensated? Dental school debt's a lot different from even when I went. So these young dentists have to be compensated enough to pay their debt, pay their rent, pay their food, things like that. Learn things. So how, what, where, when, why? Those are the 5 questions. Where is the job? Why do you need an associate? How will they be compensated? What procedures will the associate do most of the time? And also, what fun things are there to do in the area? Because there's more to life than just dentistry. And as we wrap up, selling your only practice. It's such a key point in the career of a dentist. Sell your practice and hang up the handpiece. There should be some ceremony where you hang up the handpiece and ride off into the sunset. But you can't do that unless you sell this practice, which is a very complex transaction. Not only do you need a person, you need a person who is a dentist, licensed in that state, wanting to live in that area and be able to get financing for your practice. So one of my best pieces of advice, start early. Connect with brokers, ask good questions, connect with accountants, build your team. I'm a huge fan of basketball. My dream was to play in the NBA. That dream didn't come true. But who would be on this starting 5? A dental-focused attorney, a dental-focused accountant, a financial coach, a confidant, a personal confidant that you can ask questions to, a bank along the way too. So these are people that you want to put on your practice transition team and meet them early. Developing relationships is key. So it all goes back to developing this dental focus core, this dental core of your mind, your words, your hand skills. At Dental Nachos, what we do is we want to help you make good dental life decisions. Help learn from mistakes that other dentists have made, like me, when I didn't have information on how to value a practice, how to work with brokers, and how to navigate this sometimes nacho nuts dentisting business world. I love helping dentists. Our goal is to connect us more together with these ABCs. Always be connecting, always be caring. No one really likes going to the dentist, so we may as well like each other. I think this is a special time for us all to bond together. And I want to be part of the solution in making that happen.
So that is my vulnerable story where I did not make the right decision in who I worked with, didn't listen to the right people. And I said $30,000, but looking back, it was at least a $50,000 mistake. So if you take anything away from this webinar, text buy to 215-543-6454 and get the right people on your team. Working with a dual representation broker is Nacho Nuts. I want to welcome my panel of experts from all over the US. They can start their video when they are ready. The DDSmatch team are amazing supporters and sponsors of Dental Nachos. They help dentist dreams come true and avoid screams. So we'll start with the furthest away from me geographically. Jeremy, just introduce yourself and tell the audience what you do in your daily life to help dentists.
Yeah, so I help sellers only, sell practices here in Colorado and Wyoming.
And Colorado's a very popular state, so I
Very
know there's a
popular.
lot of attention. We're out there visiting earlier in the year, so thanks for being here with us. I will go with Justin next. Justin, just kind of introduce yourself. Tell us what you do in your
Paul,
daily life.
thanks for having us here today. Again, I'm Justin Bauman, covering the state of New York, basically from Buffalo, New York, all the way up to Westchester, a little bit in the Bronx as well, and then Western PA, State College, through Pittsburgh, Erie as well. So thanks again for having us, and happy to dig into the conversation here today.
Awesome, Justin. Thanks. And Kevin, share with us. You're closest to me geographically. My favorite place on earth, Philadelphia. Also practice in New Jersey. So I've saved my favorite geographic region for last here. Kevin, introduce yourself.
Philadelphia, born and raised, Kevin McGonigal. I have 2 partners, my brother Joe and my cousin Bill. And between the 3 of us, we are Eastern Pennsylvania, all of New Jersey, Delaware, and we even go up into New England, Connecticut, and Western Mass. So cover a lot of ground.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to chat with you. There's people here watching in live. You're the most important people, so you can put your questions in the chat. We'll be happy to answer real live questions. If you're watching this on demand, just shout at your computer and we'll hear you. Just kidding, we will not. You can text by to 215-543-6454 and we'll get those questions to our panel and experts and get you the answer. So I talked about 3 steps to practice purchase success, and I'm going to go first as someone who has purchased practices and made some errors along the way. So 1 I have here is start early. 2 I have is hire the right team. I made a mistake in doing that with my second dental practice. And have your financial and clinical documentation in order. By clinical documentation, I mean the ability to show someone what you have done so far as an associate dentist along the way. So what are some of the steps you believe are important? They could be similar to mine or different. I'll start with you, Jeremy.
Yeah, I thank you. I agree with I think the biggest thing is the team. My analogy is not basketball. My analogy is you're the president, the doctor buying the practice, you're the president, you're putting your cabinet around you, and your cabinet is CPA, attorney, lender, maybe a real estate person, maybe a practice coach, somebody like that. They give you information, guidance, and then you make the decision as the president, but you can't be expected to know everything about this process. How could you? And it's okay that you don't fully understand. So you're the president, use your cabinet to advise you and then make the decision. But one more thing I would add to that is put some trust into your advisors as well. Where we see people get hung up sometimes is they'll have the team, which is great, but then they don't believe a word that anybody is saying. Seller, me, lender, anybody that's advising them, and I would caution on that. You certainly have to be skeptical and do your research and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, you've got to trust the people that are advising you.
I love that. A couple things I'll add is I don't know what you're talking about. I read lease agreements in my spare time. So
Yeah,
I can figure out a lease. Like, I'm just kidding. No idea what it means. I always say that all of you could read how to bond a tooth and do a filling, but if you actually tried to do it in practice, you would fail miserably. So dentists who think that you can do what other people do by reading it is erroneous. And I actually share when I speak on this that an important person on your team is a confidant to tell you, tell
Mhm.
you the real truth. Am I seeing this the right way? And it might be your spouse. It might not be your spouse. It could be your best friend from dental school. It might not be your best friend from dental school. Because I've seen, Jeremy, that situation where people build a team, pay a team, and then don't believe their team. And then the whole process can go sideways. So you talked about the team. That's great. Justin, what would you add to the process, the steps, whether you want to reinforce something we've said or add something in yourself?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of echo the top 3 that you have here, to be honest with you. So starting early. So again, we always like to say 3 to 5 years. We really like to plan it out. Now, the problem is that I get a dentist that has about 6 months left and they have about $250,000 in declining revenue. And they come to me and say, sell my practice. I need this for retirement. That makes things extremely difficult. So we want to do, again, start early. Let's start planning. If there's a number you need to reach, we have things like our clinical opportunity blueprint that we can start putting in these tools. We can get you involved with practice management people that can help you increase your revenues to obviously get the value of your practice to the highest possible value for obviously the sale itself. So these are important things. Starting early is really important, and the strategy is the most important part. And I'll echo what Jeremy said. Obviously, hiring the right team, but if you don't listen it, and this is a lot of stuff that we get on a regular basis. Like we'll get into a really deep situation, and we'll say, "Listen, we highly suggest you do this." And it could be just in the beginning. Like I've had a practice out in Westchester right now. We've had many of offers, and they want to be higher than what our valuation number is, and I cautioned them on that. And now we're kind of calming down in the amount of interest in the practice, and now they're realizing that there just may not be that amount of opportunity with a value that's higher than the valuation. So these are things that we just got to listen to, and hopefully we can round out that conversation. So
I like that. One thing I want to extract from you, dental pun intended, Justin, before I go to Kevin is, Jeremy said, and we'll kind of echo this a number of times, that you work for the sellers, but you do need to work with the buyers. I really admire the DDSmatch trusted transition process. What do you guys do to make buyers feel more confident? Because buyers can get so much chaotic information from brokers that are not as responsible as what you do. So if someone is watching this about to buy their first dental practice and they connect with someone like you, what are some of the things that you're doing to make them feel confident, whether it's in the revenue, the tax returns? What are some of those things, Justin?
Yeah, and it's quite simple, to be honest with you. And again, everybody likes to talk about how we're seller centric. We are, but again, if our buyers don't have the right representation themselves, they're going to be out there floundering and not understanding what they're actually getting themselves into. So I think it's very important, be it one that we can refer them to buyer reps, trusted advisors for themselves as well. I think that's important. Also, just being extremely transparent. Everything I know about the dental practice that I'm selling, the buyer themselves will know. I have 10 plus testimonials that come back to me after they've bought their first practice, telling me how the process went and how again we never pulled the wool over anybody's eyes. It exactly what they found on day one is exactly what we promised them. So these things, again, just the trust factor alone, being available for a buyer. Again, these kind of things they sound simple, but I have a call, scheduled for a buyer after this today. And it's just to walk them through, just the simple process of how do I get in touch with a bank? And again, do I talk to one bank, two banks, three banks, four? Where do I start and where do I stop? So these are all these kind of things that, again, being a trusted advisor, both on, even though we're seller centric, the buyer needs to bounce
Yeah,
things off.
you're a resource. And what I'll share before I go to Kevin
Absolutely. Absolutely.
is you've had buyers turn into sellers, right? The circle of dental life is much different than it was in the 1980s. And I think a lot of that's very cool where dentists are making moves in their personal lives and, buying a practice and maybe moving away. So it's important that you are trusted by both sides, even though you're only working for the seller. Now, before I go to you, Kevin, I want to introduce someone to the panel here. So I talk about with dentists not wanting to cry inside. So this is Mr. Grumbly. He represents the feeling of wanting to cry inside when things go wrong in your personal or professional life. So you're welcome to add to this list, but maybe you could highlight things that have made some dentists feel like this inside by not following the right steps or sideways steps. I know I echoed the dual representation broker, but please feel free to add to this list. If you have anything that has brought up a Mr. Grumbly in one of your clients or dentists, feel free to share it.
Kind of jumped off what Justin said. There were a couple things there. Number one, he said transparency. We do work very hard to make sure the practice owners are prepared to go to market. So like he said, we want to be able to put people in a position to make good decisions. Even if the decision is, no, this isn't the right practice for me, we're totally okay with that. So, a lot of the way that I start with people who are looking for their first practice is I explain that there's really three ways you can spend $1 million over the next 5 years. If you're the type of person who wants everything the way you want it, do a startup. The bank will give you the money, go find a location, pick a contractor, pick out all your own chairs, the floor coverings. You'll get everything exactly the way you want and you'll be successful. The other alternative is to buy $1 million practice. It has its own challenges. You have to be able to keep that wheel spinning at the same rate and ideally make it spin faster while dealing with the people that have been there sometimes multiple decades. And then there are all the practices in the middle that, if you were looking at a house, you might call them a fixer-upper. There's some issue, maybe it's the lease, maybe there's 3 operatories we need to expand, maybe it needs an equipment update. All 3 of those essentially cost $1 million over 5 years. So it really becomes kind of a question of what type of person are you? Are you someone who has the guts to do a fixer-upper? Are you only going to be happy if you get to pick out everything yourself? Or do you want something that has a good track record and you feel like it's going to be a good fit for you clinically, personality-wise? It checks the boxes financially for you in a cash flow perspective. All 3 of those are viable options. There's no right or wrong answer. That's where I like to start when I'm having conversations with new buyers, just to try to figure out where should we be looking before I start showing you every practice under the sun that may or may not make sense for you. I like to try to get a sense of who are you? What is it that you're actually looking for? What's going to make you happy? So that when you see the practice you're looking for, you're prepared. So like you have number 3 there. Go to the bank, get your pre-approval, just like you would if you were going to go shop for a house. That's a signal to us that you're serious and that if you see something you like, you're prepared to move forward. So I think you got a good list here, and everybody's hit on some good topic.
Awesome. Great value already. This is the stuff that I wish I had heard back in 2011 before I made the error of just totally, believing a dual rep broker that just didn't have my best interest in mind. At the end of the day, it was my responsibility to figure that out, but I wish I had access to this information. The next question I want to ask about this process is a little bit about the timing of buyers connecting with you, and also how many practices do most of the buyers that you see look at before they buy one? And I'm just going with the most. I know someone's seen one and bought one, and someone's seen 40 and not ever bought a practice. But Jeremy, when should the buyer start connecting with a broker so that you know that they exist in the Colorado area? And how many of these practices are most of these buyers looking at before they actually buy one and move forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. Probably impossible to answer. They should reach out early. It's the same, Justin was explaining, we want to talk to sellers early. We want to talk to buyers early. I'm going to get as much information from you as I can. How big of a practice, certainly geography, how big of a practice, physically, number of opportunities and things like that, revenue, what type of procedures, is it bread and butter? Is it, more implant focused? Is it, you only want a practice that the selling doctor refers everything out? I'm going to get all of that information. If you tell me, hey, I'm in the cold weather states that you guys are in, and I want to get somewhere nice like Colorado, but it's not, no offense.
That was, I
And it's,
felt a little offended by that. Okay. Saying
yeah,
no offense, saying no
that's
offense
what I
didn't
had to,
take
I just,
away the
I,
offense.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah. Um, if you are, we're in mid to late November, and you say, I'm probably going to start, I'm not going to be moving until, I'm not moving to Colorado until the end of 2025. But hey, can I see that practice in Littleton? Um, that's probably doesn't make a ton of sense to start looking at the financials of a practice and doing analysis on it if you were not moving here for, over a year. And I say that generally speaking. Sometimes the sell, there are ways that you can work out where the seller is going to maybe buy early and the seller sticks around for a period of time. But usually like I would say 6 to 8 months before you're ready to pull the trigger, we should be looking. I know in heavily populated areas with very competitive practices, you've got to be able to move fast. If they're a little further out, you might have a little bit more time, but that's the timeline I would give.
awesome. Thanks. Thanks, John. I think one of the things
Yeah.
that I learned in not being, and I'll let you guys add to that in a minute. One of the things I didn't know before I became a broker for my time, I just didn't know how long this took. It was, there's no dentist really understands the length of time and complexity and all the things that need to be signed. Kevin knows the great state of New Jersey has that bulk use tax thing or something you have to get done. There, each state may have some nuances. So I think that is an important message. Did you want to add something, Kevin, next?
Yeah, just because we represent the sellers, and you talked about it, building your team, right? And creating relationships and making contact. So we don't work for buyers, but we do work with them all day long. So if we're able to make a relationship, like I don't want to show you 10 practices, right? Like I'm not driving you all around the tri-state area to look at $1 million practice, a $900,000 practice, a 700, a 200. We have to have a relationship where I have an understanding of what it is you're looking for. I'm trying to calibrate the practices that I know about to suit you. So if we're all over the map and we're not really finding anything, you can wear us out. So, building that relationship, being, as transparent with us as you feel comfortable, but that's going to help us find you the practice that you're looking for. Narrowing down geography. Sometimes we get calls with someone who's very early and they say, I'm open to anywhere in Pennsylvania, anywhere in North Jersey, anywhere this. I put that person lower down on my list of follow-up because they're going to catch it in a newsletter. They're going to see the listings, but they're not on my short list.
And I was telling my team the other day, Kevin, also you made me think of something, and I'll ask Justin a question next. Be friendly with your brokers, treat brokers with respect, because when they see a call, they're just like anyone else. And they think, I want to pick up this call and talk to this person, or I might let it go to voicemail in this moment. So I think that dentists, you know, sadly, we're just not taught how to develop professional relationships in dental school. I wish there was more conversations about it. But many times buying your first dental practice is kind of the first time you've jumped in to a professional situation. And I appreciate it. Justin, did you want to add anything to this conversation about how many practices, timing, connecting with people like you? Tell us more about that.
Absolutely. And again, we've already hit on some of this stuff, but quite simply, I'll say early. I'll say early because I actually spoke to a D4 4 years ago that is living in Brooklyn right now. He's happily married to a person that lives in Rochester, and they got themselves involved in our very robust website, DDSmatch.com. And they got on there, created a profile, and they've been kind of perusing practices here and there, just kind of understanding of what it would be when and if they're ready to make that bounce to be closer to home. So, and in fact, again, we're going through that sales process now. So they were able to look at the listings that I had, and when one fit their profile or where they wanted to be, we actually have a system within DDS Match that sends out a little email to them and gives them a heads up. So the earlier they're in our system, the earlier they're looking, the better it is for us too. Especially they can kind of do their own, as Kevin said, their own analysis and kind of understand this one's in a geography that's really not going to work for me, or this one, I don't know, they do too many implants and it's still not going to work for me. This one here is perfect. Everything's referred out. They don't do implants yet. All these things are going to bode well for me to really up this thing and get it up and running. So I will just echo by saying early as hell. And the thing is with me, I have such a large geography. So I could have some in Western New York, and that could mean Buffalo, in between Buffalo, Rochester, in between Rochester, and then Syracuse. So there's a large geography of what that means to a lot of people.
I love this. You guys are sharing awesome value. I have some bonus Q&As, but I've been thinking of things as you're going along, and I think it would just be so valuable, and especially this question. I hope my team brings this out, this one part. So what do you want buyers to say to you on the first call? And I want to explain. I am a dentist, and many times a new patient will walk into our practices and say things like, I just want to let you know I hate the dentist. And I want to say, I just want to let you know you could have kept that in your head. Okay. It's not a relationship builder, but for some reason, it is acceptable for some people, not all people, to say these things. And I want to be honest, I don't forget that, right? I'm a person too. So even if they say, I don't want to see you, it doesn't feel good to me, right? I want to share most of the time, those patients turn out to be really difficult patients. So when people come in being like, hey, I know you're a great respected dentist in the area. I went to a dentist in my own hometown. I keep up with 6-month recalls. I value my teeth. Those are like kind of nicer things to hear as a dentist. So I'm going to kind of put it on you because I don't think anyone teaches this. A buyer connects with you guys. Like, what are good things you want to hear on that call? They could be feelings, they could be facts, they could be emotions. And I know I didn't prep you for this question, but I think it would just be really cool for you to share for someone who talks to buyers and sellers all day long. The first time you get a voice-to-voice call with a buyer, not an email saying, I want a $2 million practice, not what's the EBITDA of the EBITDA inside of the EBITDA. I'm talking about a real conversation. Jeremy, what do you want to hear from a buyer? What are some good things that you to hear?
Yeah, can I relate it to Grumbly?
Yeah,
One of your
sure.
Grumbly?
He's still here. Yep. He's still here.
So the message is it's broad, but don't take it personal. And what I mean is that that's I think that a lot of times a buyer will reach out to us and they don't want to divulge any information. They just, they're skeptical of us that we're trying to take advantage of them. And that just keeps transferring on to the lender, to a landlord not being comfortable assigning the lease. And so now they're mad at the landlord, and the seller didn't concede on knocking down the price. And so they're upset at the seller, and none of that's personal. So it's all business. So if you take the approach with us as somebody that can help you, because we can help you get to your right team, find the right practice, and put you in the right position for the rest of your professional career. That's amazing. So what I like, and it's funny, we will talk to each other. When I talk to the bank, the bank will describe the interactions, and this stuff goes. We're a small community, so I think just being open to suggestion, open to not having your guard up. You're more highly educated than me. I acknowledge that, but I've been doing this, so I have some information and expertise to provide. Be open to it. And so tell me what you're looking for. And I know we keep saying same things, but where do you want to be? What type of practice? Tell me about your family and what, your spouse, you're moving from Atlanta and your spouse has to find a job, or you know what, your spouse can work from home and so we can go anywhere. And so we're looking Southern Colorado, and I really enjoy some Medicaid, so I need to be in an area of Medicaid, and I'm not comfortable with implants yet, but I'm going to go to some courses. Um, that kind of stuff. Like, let's just, it takes 10, 15 minutes max. You can do it on your lunch break, 15 minutes. Tell us what your goals are, what you want, what is ideal. We'll hear, man, ideal is 5 to 6 ops. That's ideal, but I'm open to
And I think, Jeremy, what
4.
I'll jump in is it gives you context because you're searching for people and you can't do it without the context you need. So if someone was
Right.
looking for a home for me and said, you have 2 daughters and a golden doodle, there's a great house in Bala Cynwyd with a yard, I'd say, I'm sorry, I'm allergic to mowing the lawn because I never want a yard. I don't want to be involved in a yard. I don't want to have a tractor. So if they don't know that I am not a yard person, they might look for the wrong houses for me.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yep.
all about developing that
Yep.
relationship. Kevin, do you want to add to that I thought that was good, but do you want to add anything that you like to hear from a buyer on that first voice-to-voice call?
Yeah, it's always nice to hear somebody that is genuine, is down to earth. You get a sense that we can build a relationship here. We're working together on this project, right? Like, I am trying to help, and like Jeremy said, we're not the enemy. We're not trying to fool anybody because this is hard enough to sell this practice. Like, I'm not going to be able to trick you into it.
Yeah.
So that is just not really where we're coming from, right? Like I said, we're trying to be as upfront as we can, as transparent as we can. So I like to hear that same thing coming back. I've looked at 3 practices. Here's why I didn't buy them. I thought I wanted to be this area, but really I need to be within this 10-mile thing. I've talked to a bank. I've started to form my team. Somebody that is engaged in the process is what I'm looking for. That is a huge
I
thing.
love that engagement. And I will share, when I was brokering practices, one of my things was, have you connected with a bank? Because it's up to me to put this person in front of a seller. I don't want them to waste their time. They sometimes, early on in my
We're
broker.
not doing a showing if you haven't talked to a bank.
Yeah. So Justin, anything you like to hear on the call besides how many push-ups can you do in 60 seconds?
Also very amazing. But no, I'm going to echo a lot what the guy said, but I like a dentist who's going to be a little bit more humble. It's going to come to me. And this is a really tough thing I think they've all said it, but it's a really tough thing to do. Trust us. You know what I mean? Just honestly take a step back, understand what we're saying, and trust that we're trying to do what's best for you. And I mean that sincerely. Kevin said it earlier. If this practice doesn't fit you, great. It's good. It's fine. But all we want to do is make sure that if it doesn't fit you, that maybe we have something else for you that does fit you.
Yeah, it's not our practice. We don't work there. You're never going to
Yeah.
hurt my feelings if you don't like it.
And also, I think, you guys should do some, dentists love stats, right? Remember, 4 to 5 dentists like Trident. It doesn't, the stats, I actually think you should do this. And you should look at your last 20 closings and look at the buyer and think, how many practices did they see before they got to that closing? And it's probably not just one and done. So it's the start to a relationship, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I've sold practices to people who I'd shown 3 or 4 practices over the years, but if they were normal, not maniac people, I'd want to keep working with them. If they made everything so uncomfortable and annoying in the one time we did something, I didn't really want to show them more practices. And the reason I didn't do it out of spite, not like Seinfeld, I do like that joke. I did it because they wouldn't be a good person to put in front of future sellers. So I think that's really key. Now we have a breaking question here from a seller. I think it's great. I'll let Justin go first because so this is a great question. It's fairly spicy. So answer this question. Should you have a broker representing you with a sale to a DSO? How does the commission work between a broker and DSO? So we're going to go with, should you have a broker representing you with a sale to a DSO? How does the commission work with the broker and the DSO? Justin, I'll let you answer that first.
That's an easy question, and the simple answer is yes, absolutely. The reason is again, just like anything else, every DSO is different, right? So every DSO is going to come to you with their own terms and their own agreements and their own holdbacks and all that stuff. We had my wife is my partner. She's a healthcare attorney. We had a practice in Yonkers. It was a $1.9 million practice. The dentist was young at about 49 years old and decided that it was just his time to step away from all of this rigmarole, taking care of staff, taking care of the business aspect, all that stuff. We fielded 12 different DSOs for that particular situation. Could you imagine doing that yourself? And that means doing a spreadsheet of what each of these offers means and what does that mean to you long term, meaning how much cash am I get up front, how much is going to be held back, and how much is going to be put back at the end. All these things kind of matter. So there is a lot of dynamics that go into this, and that means doing Zoom calls, and that means actually receiving data, giving data, all that stuff. If you think you can handle that all on your own, you're going to be very sorely surprised at how much time and effort it takes for you to do that. There are so many nuances to a DSO transition that it's almost hard for me to start to tell you about what day one is like to honestly to day two to day three. You're also going to have the DSO is going to come in with a private equity firm that's going to have a quality of earnings, which means they're going to like search out your EBITDA, and that means to the nth degree go through all of your financials and to a really fine tooth and comb, however you want to go for it. They're going to really dig in and figure out exactly what your EBITDA is. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth and a lot of defense work for us as well, meaning like, okay, this is an add back, this is a one-time expense, all these kind of things. So yes, there's a lot.
I mean, Justin, I mean, it's just fair to say, maybe this is fundamental to you guys, but not this. It's just a much more complex transaction than what is happening with the private practice transition. So that's when you really need the people that do this thing every day and know what they're talking about. I want to go there, but what about the commission? How does that work on a DSO sale?
Commission is the same. It's 10% of the practice sale. So, yep.
And one of the things I'll share, actually, I want to share mine at the end about that commission, but I'll let Jeremy and Kevin go first. So, Jeremy, what's your thoughts? Should you use a broker for a DSO sale? How does the commission work?
Yeah, I feel the same as Justin. Where I would add is two things. Demand drives value, drives price, however you want to say it. So the goal of the DSO is to find a doctor that has no representation, sell them on the benefits of the group, and tell them what their EBITDA is, and then present a multiple of that and say this is and this is the value. And their goal, like they're responsible for private equity money, their management team, the other doctor. Their goal is to buy it for as little as possible. That's a fact. And so if you have one offer or you have 12 competing offers, that value that directly affects the value that you're going to get. Prices, the money is one part. The other part is they're not, Justin said it, they're not all the same. And so you have to find the right cultural fit, talk to doctors, how they're working, how you work for them, because you're going to be an employee for the next 5 years is a really important thing. And they're not all the same. So you don't want to just go to one and not know what the others
And
are all
I'll
about.
share. I've used this joke before. I think it's funny. But when you sell your house, someone else new comes and lives in it, and you go live in another house. When you sell your practice to a DSO, you're living in the house with the new people for a while. So you better be able to get along, right?
That's funny.
And for a while, right? So I know there's transition times in private practice sales where the seller will stay, but they're usually not the full-time housemate of like the DSO.
Yeah.
They become like the grandfather that might be there 2 days a week. So Kevin, anything you want to add to that?
Kind of what Jeremy said, opening it up, and instead of just letting the DSOs come to you, you have an opportunity to be in control of this process and to vet them before they vet you. There's, likely you have a reason on why, even if it's your practice is big and a DSO is your only option, you still have options on which type of DSO you partner with. Some are better at other things than others are. If you are somebody who you don't want any of the management responsibility of the practice moving forward, meaning if somebody leaves, you want the DSO to manage the hiring process. If your server goes down, they take care of that. Well, then you're looking for a much more established DSO, somebody who has that back end support. If you want to largely be left alone, but you're looking for a partner to grow, then maybe you're looking for a new emerging, a smaller group who is still in that strategic phase. They don't have enough back end to support you, but they can be your partner and maybe help push you over the hump to get to whatever next level you're looking for. So I think, being able to work with somebody like us to help control that process is going to make it easier for you to identify the options that exist and then compare whatever financial offers exist. But really, it's about switching that so that you're in control of the process versus being on the defensive, fielding
I love that.
these blind
This is
offers.
such a good question, and we'll have more of these. Rocky 1, 2, well, Rocky 3. Mr. T will come. He'll represent the TSO for Rocky 3.
Well, I'd like to add one more thing too, if you don't mind. Again,
Sure.
What Jeremy was talking about before is what we call an unsolicited offer. Basically, what are they going to do is they're going to, again, have that EBIT analysis, present it to you, and hope that you sign on the dotted line. We're going to do our own analysis, so we know exactly which areas of which this EBITDA could be offer on. And again, we're experts in negotiating, so we're basically going to negotiate our own fee out of the entire deal. So,
And that, well, I want to bring that to life. I like what you had said because I was planning on saving this to the end. I'm going to keep these awesome guys for about 8 more minutes. We have a little more time if you want to ask a question. But have you guys seen something like this? Dr. Nacho's practice does $2 million a year. A DSO offers 2.5 million, and I don't use a broker. Okay, so I don't pay any commission, and I leave with $2.5 million. But you take that same $2 million practice, and I get broker representation, and a DSO offers $3.2 million. And I pay you guys $320,000, leaving myself with $2.78 million. It's pretty good math for a 47-year-old guy. So have you ever seen something like that where, and maybe this is what you were saying, Justin, where getting the representation leaves you with more money, even though you pay the commission?
Absolutely, yes. Quite simply, and again, that practice I mentioned too in the Yonkers area, same thing happened there. Again, I've never seen a guy more happy with paying a broker than when he got the final check coming into his bank account. So
yeah. So what you guys all shared, and Jeremy and Kevin, I'm sure you've seen this as well. It's not just about the money; it's about your life after you get the money.
Oh yeah,
your whole life for this, and make
yeah.
sure you have people that talk to these people every single day. And it's also just everyone who's here. When somebody walks into somewhere and says, "Hey, I'm part of the Dental Nachos group, and I know Paul Goodman, Dr. Nacho," sometimes people give them a little more attention. Sometimes people treat them nicer. Sometimes people say, "I better not mess this up." So when you guys do this for DSOs, you're going to be back again with them. So that means that you have a relationship with these DSOs where they can't not do the right thing for you, because I'm assuming, Kevin, then maybe they don't get
They
a
call us
shot
every
the next
day
week.
looking for practices. So,
Yeah.
you know who these folks are. Every event that we go to, every show, most of the people that visit our booth are DSOs.
Yeah.
So they want to know what practices we're working with. And that's why, we're able to help control that process and bring in the people that are going to be the best fit for you.
So I want to share, if you know me and you go to Elvez in Philadelphia and you say, Dr. Nacho, you may get a margarita or table faster. If you know you guys, you may get a few $1 million more. So it's pretty much the same thing, pretty much the
Pretty
exact
much.
thing. So we're going to end on this question, then I will share how people can connect with you. But I just think this is a good final question. I would feel this way too. You're taking out a loan, the biggest loan you've ever taken out as a private practice dentist. This is the biggest loan you've ever taken out. You're taking over a very complex business in a dental practice. And you say, "Hey, Justin, hey, Jeremy, hey, Kevin," I'll let Kevin start first with this one. Do you think this team's going to stay? Because I got to pay this loan. And if the hygienist and the front desk and the assistants all run out the door, even though you may have never seen this happen, how do you make your buyer feel about this question, Kevin? When they say, "I can do this, I'll get the loan, I'll do the thing," but do you think this team will stay? What are some things that you would share with the buyer?
What we try to do again is control the narrative around how this news is delivered. So we wait until everything is finalized. And first, with the practice owner, we would go to the staff and say, "Hey, we just spent the past several months looking for the perfect person to take this over. We were most concerned about the patients and you, the staff, and we think we found a great fit, somebody who is a good fit with the practice clinically, culturally, and we're really excited. We think you guys are going to really be in great hands as well." So we really hype up the buyer, try to make everybody feel good about the transition. And then we do the same thing with the buyer. We bring them in, we say, this is Dr. Smith, super excited to be here, extremely qualified, you know, and we, on the side, what I tell Dr. Smith is, here's what I would do with the staff is I would talk to everybody individually on your first day, and I would ask them, what's the one thing you hope I change immediately? And what's the one thing you hope I never change? You don't do either of those things immediately, but at least now you have a list of what's important to the staff that you just inherited. And it's going to give you a lot of insight into their day to day, what's been bothering them, what's the thing that they're leaning on that gets them through the day. And that's going to help you kind of get off on the right foot.
Awesome. I love that, Kevin. Justin, give me a 60 seconds from Justin Bauman on this answer.
Complete echo, control the narrative. Again, if a staff finds out early that there is some kind of transitioning happen, there's a ton of questions they're going to come to that seller with, and they don't have any answers. So that's the problem. No answers brings ambiguity, it brings anxieties, and they're like, well, shoot, I don't know what's going on. Should I start looking for another job? All these kind of things. So again, as Kevin said, we have to control the narrative, make sure we get far enough along the deal to where everything's kind of situated. APA is signed. Pretty much we're locked in to a closing, and then the introduction can happen. That buyer will know how to answer those questions because again, they will be addressed by then. And that way it'll put everybody at ease.
I love that. You know, no answers causes anxiety. I dealt with that many a times with teams around me, such as today and mostly every day of my life. So I think it's important for leaders to remember that no answers for your team causes anxiety. Jeremy, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, just real quick. You're also trying to identify philosophy, practice philosophy, how you treat your patients. So when you're meeting the seller, you go see the practice and you're going to meet and talk about the practice. You're going to talk about patient philosophy and how you're diagnosing and treating and all that stuff. But you also want to know about staff philosophy. How do they treat their staff? Those should be conversations that you're having upfront as well, trying to get you want to match up clinically, but also philosophy on how
And
you treat
hopefully there's
people.
some value in this. What I'm going to share, I love what you said, Jeremy, is that I'm a dentist. If I was transitioning my practice and using Kevin McGonigal and I talk to him and say, hey, give this dentist a chance. We've selected this dentist to take over our legacy. You'd have to get a new job anyway. My friend Todd Fleischman says this. He has patients who say, I don't want to see the new associate. I'm going to leave. He goes, well, you're not going to see me anyway. If you leave, you might as well try my associate. So sometimes these people who get very emotionally unhinged over things that are new, just say, hey, this is who I would give a chance to. We built this together. You have an opportunity in that to bring my video back from the beginning. The dual rep broker there said to me, not in the nicest way, when I bought that practice, that front desk person isn't going to be there 6 months later. You are not going to like that front desk person. She's not going to be there. She stayed for 7 years. Okay. And I was proud of that. I was proud that we developed that relationship. I'm not saying it was just an aggressive thing to say in the transition, right?
Yeah.
But she stayed for 7 years and she was wrong. We have one bonus because I want to is that we are going to have the recording available. My team will share how you can get that. Text buy to 215-543-6454 to connect with these awesome experts, our sponsors, and to get the recording later. My team will share that. But this is a great question. Considering fee schedule negotiations take 9 to 10 months with companies that help with credentialing and PPOs, how do I go about billing once I close and I'm not credentialed with all insurance companies? Any insight you've dealt with on that? Kevin, I'll start with you.
We have some great specialists who work on this, like Shelley DeGrom, PPO advisors, people that know the ins and outs of the insurance game can help this. Your lawyer is also going to be able to help here as well. There's some different transitional services agreements that might be applicable. So some different levers that you can pull to kind of cover this. 9 to 10 months sounds a little long. Different states might have
that just so you guys know, because I'm wrapped up in this world and I know you guys know as well, and I hope I'm adding value here. Credentialing is not as long. What happens is there's an opportunity when a practice is transitioned to negotiate fees in this one time, but I have heard from some of these companies it could require you actually going out of network first, coming back into network. Maybe you know this, and I can see how that could cause some disruption, but long term it can be very worth it. The fees were better. Justin, anything to add to
Same
that?
thing. I mean, the transition services agreement will cover that. I have a practice right now south of Albany that's going through that phase as well. Again, the new buyer is going to come on. They're going to have the ability to run their collections through the seller for a 6-month period. All that kind of stuff can be adjusted and negotiated through the process. So less to worry about. Let's just put it that way.
Cool. Thanks, Justin. Anything else, Jeremy, there?
No, that's good. Yep.
Well, you guys, this was an awesome segment. You delivered so much value. I truly appreciate it. We love creating these resources for our dentists to learn, laugh, and feel less alone, not mess up their decisions. You're amazing sponsors. Anyone can connect with the three of you by texting by to 215-543-6454. Stick around for a few minutes, but thanks so much for sharing with us, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.